The arrival. The Galactic Empire had faced rebellions before. It had crushed uprisings, pacified systems, and annihilated dissent with precision unmatched across the stars. So when Earth, barely a century into interstellar flight, refused a demand to cede its outer colony of Thalassa Prime, no one in the High Command took it seriously. Grand Admiral Kravax reclined in his gravity-suspended chair aboard the dreadnought Harrowfall, sipping nutrient wine and watching surveillance feeds from the planet's surface. Imperial legions, in pristine blue armor, had already surrounded the colony's capital. The locals were trembling behind their crude, magnetic barriers, and his troops were ready to walk in and declare victory. No resistance had been reported. Kravax chuckled. Humans always make such dramatic speeches, but when the gauntlets hit the soil, they curl up like dustworms. He waved a tentacle and gestured toward the central holo display. Begin transmission. Final ultimatum. Across the system, a message blared on every frequency. Earth has 24 hours to surrender all armed resistance on Thalassa Prime. Failure to comply will result in planetary cleansing. This is your final warning. Earth replied in 6 words. Deployment approved. ETA, 13.7 hours. Kravax frowned. No ambassadorial protest. No plea for negotiation. Just a cold, mechanical acknowledgement. Then the blip appeared. A single ship, small, unregistered, and fast, blasting through the periphery of the system at speeds that should have torn it apart. It bore no flags, no diplomatic tags, and ignored every hail. Let it land, Kravax said. Let them witness the price of defiance. The ship hit Thalassa Prime's atmosphere like a meteor. It didn't slow, didn't ask for clearance. It simply punched through the sky and cratered into the outskirts of the capital's industrial sector, throwing molten rock and ash into the air. From the wreckage, 12 figures emerged. No names, no call signs, no insignia, just matte black suits of armor with red, pulsating neural nodes along the spine, chest, and skull, like some kind of ritualistic death mask carved by machines. Their helmets were expressionless ovals, covered in a one-way obsidian visor. No eyes, no face. They moved without speaking. No formation, no drill calls, just raw, violent intent. Sergeant Vice Halden of the 98th Imperial Guard watched the live feed with confusion. Is this it? He muttered. 12? Is this Earth's idea of a joke? His commander nodded toward the battalion arrayed around the impact zone. Crush them. Make it quick. The order was given. Drones circled. Heavy walkers moved in. Plasma rifles primed. Then everything went dark. The drones stopped transmitting. The walkers exploded, one by one, in precision-timed charges. Troops started screaming through the comms. They're in the vents. No, under the ground. He took a direct hit, and he's still moving. They're using our own armor as arc. Static. Kravax leaned forward in his command chair. Ow! Within 7 minutes, the entire encampment was gone. Not overrun. Obliterated. Some were decapitated. Others burned alive. Bodies were piled in the shape of a giant K, visible from orbit. The Empire's surveillance team tried to analyze the footage. None of the humans used standard tactics. They fought like demons, not soldiers, preferring ambushes, knife kills, and sensory overloading. They jammed comms using screams from dying troops, then transmitted those on open loops. When one operative was hit with a plasma burst to the chest, he laughed, then tore off his armor plating and ran toward the firing squad with 2 thermal grenades strapped to his arms. He wiped out an entire platoon. These weren't generals. They weren't even conventional soldiers. They were something else. Earth Command Archive, Black File D, 9 excerpt. Project Doghouse activated only under Omega-level threats. Assets are chemically nullified between missions and stored in isolated black vaults beneath Martian bedrock. Each unit is enhanced via neural combat conditioning, pain response suppression, and selective emotional dampening. Backgrounds include serial executioners, war criminals, hyper-aggressive savants, and category 5 psych profiles. Do not deploy near civilian zones. Collateral is inevitable. As the sun rose over Thalassa Prime, the planetary governor, Talamar, prepared to evacuate. Every guard post in the city had gone silent. Emergency transports were being fueled. That's when the monitors in the command room flickered. A face appeared, or rather, a helmet, cracked and blood-smeared, with one of the neural nodes glowing like a red eye. A distorted voice rasped. This world is now under Earth's protective doctrine. Surrender is not accepted. Compliance is not required. This is not war. This is punishment. Then came the feed. Dozens of Imperial officers, stripped of rank and screaming in terror, executed in methods too cruel for standard battlefields. Burned in nitrogen ice, implanted with remote trigger explosives, dissected for tactical analysis. And Earth's operatives left notes on the corpses, messages sketched in blood. You invaded. You opened the door. We are what comes through it. The Galactic Senate convened 3 hours later. What is Earth thinking? Demanded a Zytherian counselor. They sent monsters in soldier suits. Amrarzi delegate hissed. We assumed they were primitive. We assumed wrong. Kravax stood in the center of the hollow chamber. For once, the mighty admiral's voice shook. They didn't send generals. They didn't send diplomats. They didn't even send war machines. He paused, lifting a data slate. They sent killers. By the end of day 1, the entire Thalassa Prime garrison, 1,300 personnel, was dead. Not captured, not routed, dead. The 12 operatives walked the streets of the capital, not as soldiers, but as apex predators. Locals peered from windows, terrified, not of invasion, but of proximity. One child dropped a toy in the street. An armored figure picked it up, stared at it, then gently placed it on the doorstep and moved on. They weren't here to conquer. They were here to send a message. And the message was heard loud and clear. Don't provoke Earth. The Slaughter Doctrine. 7 days later, Imperial Border World Command, Sector 7K Delta. High Marshal Korvax stood before a holomap, surrounded by fleet captains and planetary governors. The air smelled of fear. 12 humans. That's all it took to silence an entire planet. Thalassa Prime was gone. Its infrastructure intact, its people unharmed, but its military apparatus turned into a smoking ruin. Of the 1,372 soldiers stationed there, 0 survived. 0 were taken prisoner. 0 pieces of working hardware remained. What Earth had sent wasn't an army. It was a disease, a precision-engineered virus of violence with a single directive: annihilate all resistance. Status of the Thalassa strike team? Korvax demanded. Admiral Jern clicked his mandibles nervously. We sent in 3 cruisers under the Emerald Dagger Fleet banner. We lost 2. The 3rd went dark. It's presumed compromised. Compromised? Korvax snarled. Yes, Marshal. The human units appear capable of digital infiltration. They commandeered the flagship's AI, turned its own automated defense systems on the crew, then used the ship as a kinetic weapon against the fleet. Silence. The room darkened as the holomap replayed the destruction in horrifying detail. One cruiser ramming another, venting bodies into space. Thalassa Prime, Earth Operative Command Post, Day 9. Inside the hollowed-out shell of the old Imperial garrison, the 12 operatives sat in a circle. No names, no faces, just designations. K1 through K12. K3 finished cleaning dry blood off his combat blade. They're slow learners. K7 smiled under her helmet. No, just too proud to admit fear. K9 cracked his knuckles. Let's teach them humility. They weren't talking strategy. They were enjoying themselves. Each operative was handpicked from Earth's darkest files. Murderers turned weapons. Killers trained not just to fight, but to terrorize. Their brains were restructured with invasive implants. Fear inhibition removed. Pleasure centers rewired to reward efficient kills. They didn't need orders. They wanted to keep going. Flashback. Earth military intelligence briefing 8 months prior. The Galactic Empire's tactical protocols rely on rigid hierarchies, predictable formations, and a fear-based command structure. They assume all enemies will act with logic, discipline, and proportional force. So we're going to give them none of that. We're sending kill directive units, individuals who don't obey rules, who don't fear death, and who don't stop until everything that breathes stops first. The slaughter doctrine is now authorized. The name came from Earth's hidden archives. The slaughter doctrine, a battle plan not focused on victory, but on shock, on spreading horror, on making the enemy wake up in cold sweat at the mere thought of resistance. The operatives employed psychological warfare as easily as breathing. Command centers were infiltrated, with staff hung from the ceiling by their own insignia cords. Water supplies were laced with panic-inducing nanodrugs, causing entire outposts to turn on themselves in madness. Communication satellites were hacked to display one looping image, a child's lullaby playing over footage of a throat slitting. All the while, local civilians were left untouched, watched but not harmed. That restraint was intentional. Let the galaxy see that Earth wasn't brutal without aim. It was selective, precise. This wasn't indiscriminate war. It was a statement. Galactic Empire, High Command, Sol Sector War Council. Kravax now wore full battle armor, no longer resting in leisure. His face was pale, his voice hollow. They're not taking territory. They're not holding positions. They move from target to target like predators, destroying only the military. A counselor muttered, "What do they want?" "They don't want anything," Kravax replied. "They're the response. We broke a boundary we didn't understand. This is Earth's deterrent." Another admiral leaned forward. "We need to nuke the planet." "No," Kravax said. "They'll survive it. Or worse, Earth will send more." The room fell into silence again. Operative K, 5 journal entry, encrypted transmission to Earth Command. Subject population, docile. No military resistance remains. Suggest permission for exfil or redeployment. Morale high. K, 7 has painted murals of our victims on abandoned walls. K, 12 has constructed a trophy pillar. Psychological impact on enemy, extreme. Captured comms indicate entire sectors rerouting patrols away from Earth space. Recommend codifying slaughter doctrine as official Earth offense strategy. Empirical results. Total shock, 0 casualties on our side. Orbit above Thalassa Prime, day 15. The last fleet arrived. 15 ships. 1 dreadnought. No more arrogance. No more ultimatums. Admiral Ress of the Call Collective led this final task force. "We end this now," he broadcasted. "No mercy." Dropships descended. Orbital weapons primed. Thalassa Prime was to be purged. They never landed. As the first wave neared the atmosphere, one by one, the ships exploded mid-air, targeted by hijacked orbital defense systems. Reprogrammed by the operatives weeks ago, the dreadnought tried to flee. It didn't get far. Operatives K-2 and K-9 had already been aboard, hidden inside cargo containers from the Emerald Dagger fleet. They emerged, killed their way to the bridge, and set the ship on a suicide trajectory. The last message from the dreadnought was a scream, followed by the sound of metal crunching. Empire-wide broadcast. Unauthorized signal from Thalassa Prime. Visual. A single operative K-1 standing on a ruined Imperial flag. "You came with orders. We came with purpose. You brought soldiers. We brought monsters. You assumed Earth would bend." Camera pans to a valley filled with thousands of corpses, arranged in the shape of Earth's symbol. Next time, knock first. Aftermath, 3 weeks later. The Galactic Empire quietly issued a Level 0 non-intervention directive for all Earth-controlled systems. Earth was no longer considered a junior species. It was considered a red zone anomaly, not for its power, but for its unpredictable, psychotic capacity for asymmetrical response. Inside Earth's deep command bunker, a general watched the news and smiled. "That'll do," he said. "Send the dogs home." Extraction, Thalassa Prime, day 30. The 12 operatives stood in a clearing. A black ship, identical to the one that brought them, descended silently. None of them spoke. As they boarded K-12 paused and looked back at the still-burning city. "I hope they remember this. They will K4 said. If they don't, we come back. As the ship ascended, the only trace they left behind was a crude sign etched into metal and stuck in the center of the ruined garrison. You wanted generals? You got consequences. Closing scene, Galactic Empire Council, confidential memo. Earth's combat philosophy is incompatible with our assumptions of war. Their use of psycho-conditioned operatives violates all known treaties, yet achieves strategic success with zero conventional escalation. Recommendation: avoid direct military engagement. Pursue covert diplomacy or containment. Status: Earth do not engage.